Do you remember that one really exciting scene in Breaking Bad? You know what I'm talking about. The one where the badass drug empire kingpin Heisenberg cleans. You don't? It happens all the time. Like, there's an extended scene of a character cleaning at least once a season. But usually more than once. Ooh, that's the good stuff.
What is wrong with you?
Okay, so you don't remember the cleaning. What about... What about Gus? You know, Gustavo Fring. One of the greatest television villains of all time. Don't you remember when he managed a fast food restaurant and lived a really quiet life for most of the time?
I was acting. Or was I?
Come on! Los Polos Hermanos! You remember. He, took out the trash and stuff. He had that cool office with the shitty laptop. Bad ass.
Explain yourself.
Okay, so I want to talk about these kind of scenes in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. The scenes where no one is dying or firing a gun or winning a court case. I want to talk about these scenes because I think they are secretly a really important part of what makes these shows great. Yep, that's right. No anime, manga, or video games this month. I'm talking about something real. A fictional television universe where Mexico is yellow and the Terminator exists as two brothers with skulls on their shoes. Super real. Better Call Saul is ending a very impressive 7-year, 6-season run. The Breaking Bad prequel sequel was made by a guy who has nothing to prove at this point. Vince Gilligan and his team of writers took a high school chemistry teacher and turned him into a drug kingpin, one 40-minute episode at a time. If you've somehow never seen Breaking Bad at this point, Vince Gilligan's got you covered. He has a quick, summary elevator pitch that'll catch you up to speed.
What I want to do with this show is I want to take this Mr. Chips character and have him turn himself into Scarface.
No, I had a pitch, I'm not going to say which network, and the pitch always was, we're going to take Mr. Chips and we're going to turn him into Scarface.
My sort of glib one-sentence pitch was, we're going to take Mr. Chips and we're going to turn him into Scarface. So I'm going to take Mr. Chips and turn him into Scarface.
You wanted to take Walter White from from Mr. Chips to Scarface.
Say hello to my little friend!
Knowing that Better Call Saul was ending, I decided back in April to finally watch it. After a third rewatch of Breaking Bad, of course. I don't think I value my time very well. While rewatching Breaking Bad and watching Better Call Saul for the first time, I noticed that yeah, Vince Gilligan really does like to make you watch a character clean things, or fiddle, or build something, or tear something apart. These scenes are often pretty meticulous and methodical. They tend to slow the pace of the show way down, and they are also usually dialogue-free, or at least dialogue-sparse.
What the hell am I doing here?
I don't know.
Including a handful of these scenes in your drama is inherently risky, because on the surface, they're kind of boring. I mean, I like them, and I'll explain why in a minute, but I can understand how they can turn a person off. I've spoken to a few people over the years who told me that they couldn't get into Breaking Bad because it was too slow-paced. And I'm pretty sure these are the sorts of scenes they are talking about. I mean, when you hear Breaking Bad's premise, you probably expect more gunfights and less cleaning. But Vince Gilligan wants you to watch his characters put in the work. And here's why I think that is. Let's start in release order. Breaking Bad. It's a story about a really smart guy who uses his brains to do really bad things. But like his drug operation, Walter White's goals start small. He doesn't want to make millions, he just wants to make a bit of money in a morally reprehensible way. Walter's everyman appearance and position in life make him pretty easy to relate to. If you work a 9-to-5, you know, or maybe are this guy. A little unhealthy, financially unstable, undervalued at work. Even his name is almost overly normal. Walt. It has kind of a blue-collar simplicity to it. as do a lot of the names in these two shows. You know how it feels to operate as Mr. Chips. You don't know how to play Scarface. The first few episodes of Season 1 really put you in this guy's shoes and then ask you some pretty fun hypotheticals. If I wanted to break bad, who would I work with? If I was going to commit a crime, where would I do it? If I had to get rid of a body, how would I do it? In a different series, the logistics of committing a crime aren't really covered in this much detail. Breaking Bad's commitment to realism demands that these issues get addressed before we, the audience, and the characters can get to the fun stuff. Even a good series like The Boys has a tendency to kind of yada yada some details in favor of skipping to the more interesting, climactic scenes of an episode or season. But Breaking Bad is about the process of committing a crime. By the time Walt and Jesse get rich, which is their originally stated goal, there are already new problems that require solving. Spoilers for Season 4 of Breaking Bad ahead, the main problem becomes how to kill Gus Fring. This question, answered over 13 episodes, must be researched. A plan must be conceived. That plan requires testing. The initial plan might fail, or only partially work, and eventually the character and the audience gets their payoff. And it's exhilarating. You are in. You're fist pumping the air and buying a t-shirt at your local mall, and you cannot wait for the next season. Sure, you had to watch Walt fumble the ball a few different times along the way, but those failed attempts and slower scenes answered the questions you may not have even realized you were asking, like, why doesn't Walt just shoot Gus? Well, he tries that multiple times, and it won't work. Gus's house is watched. Mike spots Walter's gun immediately, and he can't even handle it properly. Time for Plan B, and then C, and then D, and then, finally, after the characters and the audience have put in the work,
what happened?
I won.
I think in the world of Breaking Bad, I was very aware that Saul was more fun to watch because the stakes were low for Saul for most of the run of the series. Nobody's trying to kill him. Everyone else is going to die. Everyone is at some point losing their family or they're going to die. Not Saul.
a life or death chess match between two genius criminals is a situation rife with tension. And it makes for excellent TV. Even if you found parts of Season 4 of Breaking Bad slow, you knew it had to end with a bang. Someone had to die, either Walter White or Gus Fring. Those are some pretty high stakes. So much so that you could probably watch Walter White read a phone book for an entire episode and still tune in for the season finale. Better Call Saul can rarely achieve this same level of tension because it's a prequel. We know the fates of a lot of the show's cast well in advance. There's no mystery to be found here. Characters like Saul and Mike and Gus and Hector, they all have pretty definitive endpoints. This makes establishing any kind of tension for the show very difficult. So why does Better Call Saul double down on long, cold opens? On Mike Ehrmantraut montages? And on slow Jimmy McGill long cons? And how do the writers keep these scenes interesting? Well, it all starts with a man named Bob Odenkirk, who is giving this show and character the performance of a lifetime. And surprisingly, the role does require it. Saul Goodman ends up being way more complicated than what his original Breaking Bad screen time revealed. So much so that fans and critics of the character refer to his 3 different identities as different people. And then they debate about which character Odenkirk is playing in a given scene. Odenkirk plays Jimmy McGill with an empathy not found in his Saul Goodman performance because, quite frankly, Saul never really seemed to deserve respect. He was at best a pawn and at worst a punching bag for bigger players in the previous series. Jimmy is different. Sure, he's a bit obnoxious. And when we first meet him in Better Call Saul Season 1, his morals are already somewhat more questionable than you would hope. But he does check a lot of the protagonist character boxes. He's a public defender, which is typically seen as a good guy type of TV role. He's also loyal to his brother and to his eventual better half, Kim. And he's certainly still as entertaining as he was on Breaking Bad.
Does a steaming pile of crap scream payday to you, huh? The only way that entire car is worth $500 is if there's a $300 hooker sitting in it.
More importantly, Jimmy is firmly placed in the role of an underdog. And you always root for the underdog. From minute 1 of Better Call Saul, we watch what becomes a really common pattern of Jimmy trying very hard and failing constantly. He underperforms during the first trial that we see, and then he fails to get fully paid for it. Then he tries his hardest to win over some clients, just to lose them to a larger firm, which he is also in the middle of failing to negotiate with on behalf of his sick brother. All of this pressures Jimmy towards falling back on tried and true conman skills, just for the con to also blow up in his face. And all of that is just in the pilot. There's still over 60 episodes to go. And throughout most of them, the audience gets to watch the same pattern of hard work and failure unfold. Sometimes, that failure is of Jimmy's own making, and sometimes external factors and coincidence have a hand to play. But throughout it all, it's that same pattern of 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And because it's a prequel, you know where the road you are watching leads. Now, what does any of this have to do with what I've identified as the slower scenes? Well, by stacking the deck so firmly against Jimmy McGill, you can't help but begin to appreciate and become invested in his hustle. And it's this investment that carries you through a slower scene or an episode full of setup. It acts as a replacement to the tension found in the unknown futures of Breaking Bad's cast. You're not left in each episode wondering if Jimmy McGill is going to die, but it is something. We know Jimmy's future, but his present is really fun to watch.
Very good. Oh, yeah. Very good.
Well done, Magic Man.
We're just getting started.
If I was Jimmy, it would only take one high-stakes deal with a crazy cartel member named Salamanca for me to throw in the towel and call being a lawyer in Albuquerque quits. But Jimmy can't or won't stop. He's like a car crash happening in slow motion, and you're caught rubbernecking just to watch it unfold. In comes a slipping Jimmy special. When all else fails, Jimmy McGill knows how to get what he wants through trickery and deceit. These cons are often presented in the form of a cold open or an episode peppered with seemingly unrelated scenes that eventually build up into a delightfully devious scheme. But almost like a heist movie, the audience is often kept in the dark about the particular details of Jimmy's plans. This happens throughout the series, but it's taken to extremes in later parts, including a scheme that lasts for half of the final season, with the audience kept largely in the dark about what exactly Jimmy and Kim are planning. Now, I'm not going to go into details on that one, but trust me, it's a blast. Instead, let's talk about one of my favorite cold opens in the show. It's season 4, and Jimmy/Saul has a problem. His associate Huel has just been charged with assaulting an undercover police officer, and if he is convicted, Saul will lose his law license for reasons that are too complicated to get into.
Chicanery?
Now, the audience understands this problem, and as we've already discussed, they largely know the outcome. Saul is still a practicing lawyer in Breaking Bad after all, and even Huel is a character they brought over from that show, so he can't be going to prison, or at least not for very long. What I'm getting at here is that we are far from the life or death stakes of Breaking Bad. So, when the episode setting up this conflict ends, why does the next one start with Jimmy McGill on a bus heading to, well, somewhere? Shouldn't he be in Albuquerque helping Huel? And why is he writing so many letters? And where is Kim? And why does he keep switching pins and... Oh, I get it. As you sit with Jimmy throughout this bus ride, which takes almost 6 minutes to complete, you as the audience forget what you already know. You find yourself caught up in what is a carefully constructed episode of television that doesn't fully show its hand for another 20 minutes. And it's a lot of fun. I feel like I can see the writers grinning as Jimmy's plans get more elaborate, and the characters are also very explicitly having a good time acting these schemes out. Oh, and if this video hasn't made it clear already, the operators behind the camera are also having the time of their lives. So many of these silent, slow, expository scenes are made incredibly entertaining due to an odd camera angle, an inventive camera movement, or a just weird music choice that sadly I cannot share with you all directly. Hard work is hard to hate, so much so that you probably don't care that what Jimmy is doing is usually morally wrong. The devil lives among these details. Watching Jimmy and Mike and Kim and Walter and Jesse come up with intelligent, out-of-the-box solutions to seemingly impossible problems is intoxicating. So much so that the characters even begin to reflect and comment on this addiction. Vince Gilligan and his team of excellent writers have made comments in the past describing how surprised they are when audiences stay fiercely loyal to characters like Walt and Saul long after they have already committed morally reprehensible acts. And look, I am one of those people. I am addicted to watching these characters' lives. And even though I know it's wrong, I have to see how it all ends. As I am recording this, Better Call Saul is getting very, very close to ending. And I don't know if I'm ready to get off this ride. I've seen these characters make huge strides and puzzle out answers to really hard problems. Over 12 seasons of television, I've celebrated their victories and lived with them in their failures. I was on the edge of my seat for the first show, and I really enjoyed the little mysteries found in the second. It has been an absolute joy to watch a writer's room successfully tiptoe around the dreaded prequel problem by living in these smaller, slower moments. And sure, at times, I didn't know where an episode or scene was leading. I may have even momentarily accused the series of getting dull or wasting time. But nothing about this series and its predecessor has been a waste. Hard work does in fact pay off.